What was the moment where you knew I have outgrown this world that I created for myself?
When I broke my back, I was not supposed to walk again, and my doctor put her hand on my legs that were still numb, and she said, "I don't know why you're going to walk, but you must have an angel on your shoulder." And that got me thinking, this could have been really bad. I have a second chance now. What am I going to do with it?
Electricast. Welcome to Season 4 of Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boat, and this season we're stepping fully into our power. The heat, the hormones, the heartbreak, the healing. This is Midlife, raw and redefined. Each episode, you'll hear stories of humans who are rewriting the rules, reclaiming their bodies, their desires, their voices. This is where we stop shrinking, start shining, and remember who the hell we are. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's an awakening. Let's get transforming 45.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. Today's question is, what happens when the life you built no longer fits the woman you're becoming? Today's guest, Kim Costa, knows that feeling intimately. She's the author of Live in Your Wheelhouse, creator of the Wheelhouse Method, and a top-performing luxury realtor in North Atlanta. But her real work is helping women come home to themselves. After years of living a life that looked right on paper but felt completely misaligned, Kim asked the one powerful question that changed everything. Does my home actually fit who I am becoming? Because midlife doesn't shift who we are, it asks us to reimagine how we live. Kim, so much to dig into here. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here with you.
All right, so let's start at the beginning of this story. So, what was the moment where you knew I have outgrown this world that I created for myself?
So there were many whispers along the way of just like general frustration and maybe disconnection from, everything I had created. So those whispers really grew into a shout when in 2001, I fell off a horse and broke my back at my farm. It was, beautiful farm, horse farm, aesthetically, could have been on Southern Living cover, but I just was living way out of alignment. And when I broke my back, I was not supposed to walk again. And my doctor put her hand on my legs that were still numb. And she said, "I don't know why you're going to walk again, but you must have an angel on your shoulder." And that got me thinking like, oh, wow, like this could have been really bad. I have a second chance now. What am I going to do with it? I was in a walker. I had a lot of quiet time to start thinking and journaling, and I started writing again. And I was really able to recognize how out of alignment I was.
Yeah, it's a big story,
Mm,
right? With some really huge moments.
mm,
And that those big moments happen for a lot of us. And then for some of us, the moments can be really small.
mhm.
And we don't often think about how what's happening for us internally can show up in our physical space. Actually, I think it's a conversation that we don't have enough. I had Tiffany Pratt on last season, who is a designer. She's on HGTV quite a bit. And we had this conversation, but it was a year ago.
Mm,
And it's one like I said, it's one of those conversations that I think is more important than we give weight to. So
mhm.
when I think about, sort of the massive transformation and change that I went through in the last year and a half, as I was thinking about this in this episode, I started noticing, which I hadn't really made the connection of, in my previous home before we moved, I was constantly looking around and only seeing things that needed to be fixed and changed. And I'm now realizing that that was a physical manifestation of what was happening for me internally.
Yes.
So, what are some of the things that you started to note, like before the injury, before the back? What are some of those small moments where you started noticing, like in your physical space, you were picking up?
Well, first of all, it was very remote. So I would look out my kitchen window. I had views from almost everywhere of this gorgeous valley. And I would be washing dishes and making dinner and unloading groceries. But I was coming to and from that farm so much because it was remote that and there was a hammock out in like near our entertaining pavilion that I put there because I was like, I want to relax in this beautiful space. I don't think I lay in that hammock one single time. And I would look at it and think, I'm gonna go relax in that one day. And it never ever happened. And then I was always looking like, boy, I wish someone would drive up our long driveway that I could see coming up through the valley because I was lonely. And so I was frustrated and I was lonely, but it wasn't about anything big. It was just during a quiet time when I was washing dishes and looking out the window, like, look how beautiful this is. I wish someone would come over and sit on my front porch with me and just take this in with me because I'm a people person and I wanted to share it, but it was not easy to get to. So those were the whispers that started the recognition of misalignment. And I don't really care for this word, but discontentedness.
Yeah, I think it's those words that can be challenging for us
Yes.
because we've been
They're
so
yucky.
enmeshed in toxic positivity, right? That
Yeah.
everything just
How
has to
could
be
you not
great.
like this home, right? And
Yeah.
how dare you?
Yes. And two of the things I heard you say are one, this world that I created, this home that I created became a job,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
that when we create these spaces that have these expectations,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes unmanageable because of the weight. I've been in that space too where you think all I want to do is stop. I just want to lay down in that space, but the responsibility of keeping up the appearance of perfection
Mm.
becomes a job.
Yes. It sure does. And, my personality is one that likes variety. I do yoga, I golf, I walk, and I lift weights, never at the same time on the same day, it seems, because I love an adventure. So doing like mucking out stalls every day. And I mean, even my garden rebelled because I love gardening, but I like perennials because they rebloom every year. I plant them once, I cut them. Something's always blooming. I bring it in my house. It's like, oh, what surprise flower am I going to have today? Or herbs. What do I want to cook today? Oh, I have some basil. I'll cook something. It's not planned, except for the one time I plant it. And so that's just my personality. I'm an ENFP. That's the Robin Williams, Sandra Bullock's, Mark Twain's, Charles Dickens of the world who love to talk to people and tell stories
Yeah.
or become other people for their job.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's why realtor is great for me because I can speak to different people and what is your situation and what is your potential as a person and what's the potential of this home. It's the perfect job for me because it offers variety.
Right. And the
Mhm.
ENFP is the Myers-Briggs personality.
Correct. The
Yes.
Myers-Briggs personality. It's extroverted, intuitive, feeling, perceptive.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's my type, also.
very cool. So you get it. You get how, like, being an accountant and living in a remote home would not be the best
No.
lifestyle.
Yeah, and in your story before, the loneliness, which also connects here, I think is another important piece of that. You spend so much time crafting a life
Mhm.
that you feel like you want filled with people, right?
Yes.
For those of us who are in the extroverted spectrum anyway, right?
Right.
You want to create a space that invites people in.
Mhm.
And what can happen is you're so busy forming the space that you lack the time to bring the people into it, which was the whole motivation in the first place.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so what happened was when I was home recovering from my broken back, I was in a walker. I had this big farm that I was not able to take. I wasn't even able to get down the steps to get to the barn, let alone muck out a stall or anything or tend a vegetable. So I started writing again and I wrote the Oprah Winfrey Show and I won the essay contest, and they called and said, okay, you're a winner. We would love to have you up on the show. Call all your friends that you mentioned in your essay, and you're coming to Chicago. And then about a week later, they called back and they said, "Okay, we want to come film at your farm." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then I hung up the phone and I panicked and I called the producer back and I said, I can't do it. You cannot come to my farm." Because I was so uncomfortable and it was so not perfect because I wasn't able to do anything and I was in pain and in a walker that I gave up a huge opportunity. And I was like, okay, this is totally I just wasted an opportunity to have the Oprah show come to my house and be recognized for my writing and for my home, which are two very important things to me. I said no because I was so uncomfortable.
And what was at the root of that discomfort?
Not being perfect. My nickname in college was my maiden name is Versteeg, and it was Versteeg of all trades. And so I was usually good at almost everything. But that's a very ENFP thing. We're we're generalists. We're good at most things. We don't really like to be pinholed into anything. And when I fell off that horse, I had plans to do some fox hunting and I was treasurer of the pony club. And it was like I had failed at that adventure. And so it was like a glaring, like I didn't want people to see me, first of all, in a walker, second of all, my home a mess, and third of all, that I had failed at something I tried because I usually didn't fail at things. So, yeah, it was all about that.
So, how do you think your transition was different at this phase in life? Like, if you were to sort of imagine back to if you had experienced this earlier in life,
Mm,
would it have had a different results? And what is it about being at midlife, having this sort of confrontation,
mm.
and how the action you take is different now than when you were younger?
Well, I think when I was younger, at the time that this happened, I had small children. I had a growing, successful residential construction business with my former spouse. And I did not feel as though I had the opportunity to make those changes. We needed me to do the financials. This is where we were living. I didn't want to uproot my kids. And in the book that I wrote, it tells why we finally moved. But I just felt obligation to keep doing what I was doing and what people needed me to do. When you get more towards midlife, because I got divorced around 45, I finally was like, I just cannot do this accounting anymore. And I got out of my job in our business and I thought maybe that would fix it if I went outside of it into like a design firm, something real pretty so that didn't work. And so eventually we got divorced and I really had the freedom at that point with my kids in college to start being the real me.
Yeah.
And I needed to still provide insurance for my almost grown kids. And so I did that. And once we got close to the end of that, I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to become a realtor now. This is what I want to do. I want to work with people, not with numbers, and actually be around the beautiful things that I was creating or managing financially to put in people's homes. It was like, that's it. I only have one life. I'm 45. I am free. I have my own life now, and I was single, and I was like, "This is my chance." Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I went through a similar process in terms of like reevaluating life, right? I had been an educator for 20 years.
Mhm.
It was having really serious health impacts for me.
Mm.
So I resigned from my career. We ended up selling all the properties that we owned, moving from one city to another, buying a new home. And like I said earlier in the show, I like our prior home was beautiful and I had, built it for all of the reasons that we had talked about earlier as being the seat where everyone would feel comfortable coming to.
Mhm.
And the weight of that was what was showing through in me looking around and always looking at what needed to be shifted or changed or fixed. And it was a
Mhm.
beautiful home. Like, the reality is, it didn't really need anything. But that was how I was processing what I needed to fix, what I needed to evolve in myself.
Mhm.
But that's how I was seeing it play out. And so when you do that big sort of like, okay, we're blowing everything up, we're kind of going to start all over again.
Yeah.
People said to me, "You're so brave." And I thought, I don't feel brave. It just feels like this is what I have to do because if I
Necessary.
stay here, I will not survive it.
Mhm.
How do you, and I would imagine you have had similar conversations with people when when you make
Absolutely.
that kind of
Yes,
big.
they say, you're so brave," or "I'm not like you, I don't think I could do that." And I'm like, "But you are," and you don't have to blow everything up, You just need to take inventory of what's bringing you joy and what you're doing that you don't wanna be doing and what you're not doing that you want to be doing, and how you create an environment to support that.
Yeah. So how do you help people sort of see that bravery in themselves
Gosh.
so that they know they can take that next step?
I think it's all about recognizing how you were made because I was not working in my strengths. I didn't feel capable and strong. I just did what I needed to do. And like, I knew I was not the best accountant in the world. I know I'm not an IT person. So I call those people. Thank God for them because I'm like, I know what I want to connect. Please help me do it behind the scenes because that is not how my brain works. So I wasn't confident in some of the things I was doing on a daily basis because my brain was not built that way. I'm a right brained person working, I was working out of my left side of my brain for 8 hours a day. So that did not make me feel very confident. And so I would say to people, start with who are you? Take a personality test, remember what you enjoyed when you were little, find out what's your zone of genius. It might be being the best grandma in the world. It might be starting a nonprofit or, working in a nonprofit that helps other people. It doesn't have to be some inventor or athlete or world renowned. It's just what makes you happy and what were you meant for?
Yeah, I think that what did you love as a child is a question that we don't put enough value on
Mhm.
because when you really give yourself the time to think about that, go back, it like really get granular. I try to help people get very sensory about what it was like when they were a child, whether it's through music that was
Right.
part of your life at that time, whether it was scents or smells or
Mhm.
it's why it's part of the reason why I think so many Gen X creators are so big right now, like for us specifically. So
Mhm.
there's this one creator on Instagram at 80s Denise.
Mm.
I don't know if you've seen her, but she posts like images of stickers from sticker books and like she'll recreate a Saturday morning with the like Smurfs pillowcase sitting in front of the TV watching, and she has the openings of cartoons
Oh
like
my
Shira
god.
and He-Man, and it's so incredibly sensory that I can feel myself come back into my body and into that time
Yes.
in ways that I can't if I'm just trying to think about it.
Yes.
Right? Like, we need to actually use some of those tools, but getting back to that time before
Mhm.
anyone or before the world told you what you should be or what you should want.
Mhm. Yeah, music does that for me. I heard a song by the Cranberries the other day, and I was like, "Well, I'm so peaceful listening to this song." This song must have been popular during a time in my life when I was content and comfortable. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then letting yourself really think about, like, what was it that the child like me loved and wanted to
Mhm.
do? And now is that opportunity where we can make that reconnection
Mhm.
and really start thinking about what is it that I was meant for
Mm.
before I was told that I needed to be something else.
Yes. That whatever it is you want to do doesn't fit in the world. But listen, I mean, not everyone's a writer or can be a writer. Maybe some are technical writers, I always loved stories when I was little. I would hide books under my pillow and bring a flashlight because I didn't want to get in trouble for reading too late. And like Black Beauty and Huckleberry Finn and
That's such a
Heidi
Gen X thing.
all those things, right? I mean, a real book, And so I would that was my sneaky little vice when I was a child is to read too late. And
Mhm.
now, like stories fascinate me. And that's how I look at my clients now as assets. Not that's from I pulled it from my accounting, but now I look at them as assets with 8 different areas. And are they in the red or the black in those areas of their life and in their home? And so what do we need to fix to so-called make them more profitable or more comfortable or joyful in their life? What is their deficit? Yeah.
People ask about what are things they can actually do to start reconnecting with themselves.
Mm,
And sometimes it can feel like these really big questions, right? Like the who am I question is really big. But the reality is, we can actually start taking some steps in our physical spaces.
mhm,
And that's where I think we lose the conversation around that. We don't talk about that enough. Like,
mm.
we can actually start making some, and they don't have to be massive renovations,
Right.
right? But
Yes.
just what are some small things I've always wanted to do in my space that
Mm,
maybe now I have time for? I hosted a dinner party on the weekend, and one of the participants came in and she said, "I still live in a home that's mostly meant for children, but this space feels very intentional." And I was like, "Thank you for noticing that. Yes, this space is very intentional for
mhm.
who we are now."
Right.
So how do you use the finding your wheelhouse structure to help people start making those reflective changes of themselves?
Right. So, first of all, I mean, the first step is myself. And so I ask people to push the pause button. And sometimes, I mean, even though we're super busy, I just remember when I was growing up, my mom, I heard her say to someone else one day, she had 4 children, all fairly close together. She said, I get up at least half an hour to 45 minutes early every day, and I make myself a cup of tea and I sit before everybody wakes up and it's quiet. So she had a special chair. I think it rocked, and she would have her cup of tea and, maybe read a chapter of a book because she's a reader, and then she felt like that grounded her for the rest of the day. And so I suggest to people to do the same thing in their home. If you don't have a corner of your home or a room in your home that is yours, that's like your spot, I would suggest creating one and start to journal or meditate or look out the window and watch the birds and sip on your tea and ground yourself to just start finding yourself again. Doesn't have to be a whole room. You don't have to own the whole house if it's a busy household, but set a ritual for every morning before everybody else gets up if you can. Just half an hour. You'll get so much more energy, from there, from there you kind of ground yourself to start the process of putting down on paper what's aligning in your life in each of the areas and what's not.
So what are the areas of your life that as you see them, so as are laid out in the wheelhouse framework?
Yes, so they are health, finance, spirituality, friends and family, entertainment, romance, career, and environment. And so in each of those 8 areas, you're going to rate from 1 to 10 how your current environment and lifestyle fit what you want your next stage of life to be.
Yeah, that's a great foundation, and I'm sure can feel overwhelming
Yes.
when people first look at
I
those
know.
areas because 'cause they're
Start with
big.
1. Just start with 1. Start with the one you could start either way. You could start with the one that you're feeling the most pain point in, or you can start with one that seems really easy, like, spirituality. Like, do I and that might just be going outside and taking off your shoes and putting your feet in the grass. It could be, like, grounding yourself and getting in nature, taking a walk close by your home that has, like, a stream and woods or a trail, or walking through your neighborhood if there's a lot of green space. And I love there's a little neighborhood next to me that I love walking through because there's, like, it's really green and spacious. So I do that when I need some grounding. And so you don't have to do the whole thing all at once. You could pick one area that's really painful right the moment, or you can pick one area that's kind of easy, like, "Oh, I need to bring some green plants inside because, it's, biophilic and it'll make me feel better, it'll help my health." Just that one, or I need to clean out that messy drawer with the kids' papers from school from last year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, we all have those drawers or piles of outgrown clothing. How do you see folks shift when they start doing the work of, looking at one of those areas in their lives, getting some reconnection happening, some energy flow back into that space, and
Mhm,
then maybe taking that and translating it into the space they're living in. So, you mentioned about bringing in some plants. You
mhm,
mentioned about where you find inspiration.
mhm.
So, how do you see people start to shift and evolve when they start doing that work?
Well, I mean, so there are tips for each of the 8 areas. There are chapters in the book that say, these are some tips on how to improve your health in your home. These are some tips to increase spirituality in your home, whether you're religious, non-religious, or just, kind of spiritual, or a yogi or a naturalist, or whatever you are, how you can on purpose make yourself up level that area of your life. For romance, I referenced a feng shui expert because I really, really enjoyed his article on how to make your bedroom more romantic. And some of his tips were like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. Like, don't put family photos in there because you feel like people are looking at you. And I
It's
was like,
very
that
true.
is genius. I guess naturally I never did that. I always put them outside in the main area or in a guest bedroom, or, if those folks came over, it looks nice to have photos out. But yeah, in your primary bedroom, make sure each side is equal so that one person isn't getting out and running into a wall with a small little teeny night table or no night table at all to put their drink of water. Make sure it's equal so that no one becomes resentful.
Those small functional things are so important.
Mhm.
The house that I have moved into, it has just the right amount of space
Mm.
for everything.
Hmm.
It's a house that was built in 1945, the
Love
original,
it.
and then it has an addition that was not a massive addition, but just a little addition that was put on the back. Whoever was designing it did it with such an eye
Mm.
to what space feels right.
Mhm.
And it has made such a difference in the way I operate not only in my home, but also am able to operate out in the world.
Yes.
Because when you have functional space that really works, it
Mhm.
changes how you feel.
Mm. It's so true. While you were talking, I just had a vision of a couple of things I would change in my own personal home. I would make doors out of my dining room, which I would turn into like a full pantry that I could walk to my garden and cut some herbs and walk back in, and then I would add more space on the back so I could fit my entire family. And so it's like a very intentional, like, I just had a vision of your 1945 home and that addition on the back and how it's probably light filled, and, that is so important, and I was like, "Oh gosh, I should do that on my house, how brilliant." Now I'm like, I wanna see pictures of your home so I can see what you did or what they did and that you love so much. That fascinates me is what do you love about your home? And what do you do in those spaces that brings you joy?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and it is such a reflection of who you are.
Yes.
Right. So when you are in your space and it feels uncomfortable,
Mhm.
one of the questions to start asking is what is this space reflecting?
Mhm.
Right? What is this reflecting and what is it being a mirror to me about?
It's so true, and that can be good or bad.
Yes. When you're in a space that feels chaotic,
Right.
we can get wrapped up in this like, oh, well, that's trivial. Like, it's just my space. Yes, it's chaotic, but what is it? How do you feel when you walk into it?
Totally.
Right?
So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I have something called the lifestyle lift that allows you to walk into a room and write notes about how is this supporting a certain area of my life. So, for romance, say, let's for example, somebody has a beautiful bedroom, but it's a little cluttered. There's some clothes around, and in the corner is the Peloton they never use. And it's in their bedroom, and every day and every morning they wake up and every night that they go to bed, they are looking at an unused piece of equipment that brings them guilt. And maybe like I have a bad back. I sold my Peloton because I got it during COVID and I realized I don't like to sit to exercise because my back hurts. And I'm also an extrovert, so I want to go to the gym. I thought the Peloton would cure that because you're in class with other people. Turns out I need real people.
There is a difference.
And I'm not a self-initiated worker outer. I would like to show up and somebody tells me what to do in a group setting and I don't have to think about it. And I can go on about my day and I've checked that off my list because it's good for me. So, like a Peloton in my bedroom would be the kiss of death for my joy.
Yes, and it's that connection that is so important, knowing if I am looking at something that is a constant reminder of something that I'm not doing,
Yes.
but I know that I should be doing in one form or another,
Right.
it is, uh, it's an energy vampire,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes.
that object is pulling your focus and pulling energy from you because then, yeah, it's not the Peloton is the reminder,
Right. Of what you're
but it
not doing.
yes, it's the internal energy that you're devoting to, "I'm not doing that," beating
I
myself up
wasted
about it.
money.
Yeah,
All the things when it's like, okay, this is supposed to be a romantic or restful space. And I
yeah.
feel guilt every time I walk in.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons I really felt the need to sell our former home was because when you walked in the front door, you'd go up the stairs. The upstairs was this big open space that had bedrooms off of it. And I had to walk past my children's empty bedrooms to get to my
It
own.
makes me wanna cry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
every time. Because they had both started university at the same time. So we went into instant empty nest. And so whenever I would come into my home and look up the stairs, it was just my children's empty bedrooms. And I
right,
had to walk past them to get to my own space.
right.
And it was so painful
Yeah,
because it was this constant reminder of they're not here, they're not living here anymore.
that's right.
Yeah.
And now how do you fill that void? Right? So you either get rid of their bedrooms, which is painful, and then they're like, "Mom, what did you do to my bedroom?" You're kind of better off moving and creating a new space that is a guest room and you have space for them, but it's not, you can store some of their items and what do you want to keep? I'll keep some if you want to take some. And like you're always welcome, but like now that chapter of my life is not my full-time thing.
Hmm.
What am I going
Yeah.
to do with myself now?
Yeah. And yeah, and again, when you have that right in your face all the time, it's really hard to start
So
doing
sad.
that healing
Yes.
when you're constantly, like, walking past them and going into their rooms and getting into their beds and snuggling with their stuffies.
Does it still smell like them? I get it.
Yeah. Whereas now, the way our house is structured, their rooms are at the back of the house, and I don't have to see them
Yes.
unless I'm intentionally going back that way.
Yes.
And it made such a difference
Mm,
in the way I was able to start creating this new reality for myself.
I love that. And them as young adult grown people now, when they do come visit, they have their own space. It's not like
Yeah.
mom is walking past, hey, checking on me like old times. You're recognizing them as independent adults who you still want in your home, but you're also providing space, which is brilliant for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives them an opportunity to create their own new way
Mhm.
of being and when they return home,
Mhm.
and it gives us our own way of developing our own new life, and it's
Yes.
the way space and how we live in it
Mhm.
really impacts so many aspects that we often and sometimes I wonder if it's intentional, right? Because the
Right.
spaces we live in are so in our faces because
Yes.
literally we live in them.
Yes.
So it can be a real way of pushing off what we don't wanna think about, but when
Mhm.
we really take the time to sit down and think about what is this reflecting back to me and what would feel better? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do think your home is a very physical representation of your family structure. Is there space for everyone? How is your family? When people are young and have their first children and their second child, they want to be right there next to them. They've got they might have a bassinet in their bedroom for a while, and then they get down. Once the baby gets big enough, they're down the hall, but they want to be on the same level, just to be right there with them. And then when they become middle school and teenagers, like, oh goodness, I really feel like maybe we want a bedroom downstairs and we'll give them some space upstairs, and then they get the basement as well when they have friends over or the pool or whatever it is. And then, like you said right now, like you've gotten to a point where they're adults and you don't want to walk past their rooms anymore to go to your personal space because you've all evolved into your next chapters. And so, in a perfect world, not everyone can move during different life stages, but in a perfect world, your home should match your stage of life and who you are.
Yeah, Absolutely. So, what becomes possible when you do align your life with who you are now?
Maximized potential, right? Because if, say, you are an accountant, but you live, do you remember Oscar and Felix in The Odd Couple? Are you
Well, yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, it's an oldie. It was back in the
Yeah.
'70s. Complete opposite personalities. And so, to do his work, which was, being a writer, Oscar had a messy space, but Felix was a neat freak. And so each of them thrived in a different environment and they drove each other crazy. But I feel like to reach maximum potential, you have to have an environment that suits you. If you're an accountant, you can't have a ton of papers on your because you're a linear thinker possibly. To do your work, you have to have an environment that has all the tools you need, your calculator within your fingertip, and everything needs to be set up. Well, your home's the same way. So if you don't set up your home to maximize your potential, you are now being blocked from reaching that potential.
Yeah. How do you help people who are this way, right? Who are very opposite,
Yes.
but have to navigate the same space? How do you help people come up with systems to be able to do that for ways that work for both people?
Well, it's, so if you have someone who's introverted versus extroverted, organized versus, I won't say chaotic because it might look chaotic, but let's just say creative. Their projects are out and they're actively thinking and they can't be put away because it ruins the whole thing in their head. So if I start with saying, I think so and so is just built this way. And they're introverted, and I know you're extroverted. So let's get you the big kitchen with the attached sunroom so that and then the pool outside with the outdoor kitchen. So maybe hubby is grilling steaks outside to help with the party, but you're inside holding court in the kitchen and doing all of your things where he's got his space and he's not overwhelmed with the 20 guests, but that just recognize that he needs to kind of walk outside every once in a while and check the steaks or whatever's out there.
You just described my life.
Let them, right? Is nothing against you. It's not that they dislike your friends. It's just that their processing is different than yours. And they may need some quiet time the next morning to get over all of the input they received them from the evening before. Just to recognize each other and give each other space and honor who each person is and try to provide space in the home that brings them comfort and joy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be space for both people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. So that each person can feel rooted and grounded in that space in a way that makes them feel good.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to remind listeners of the question that really can change everything, which is, does your home actually fit who you are becoming? And maybe it's not even about your house. Maybe it is your calendar or your relationships or your work or roles that you are playing or characters that you're filling in that just don't fit you anymore. Midlife doesn't necessarily mean you have to completely start over, but it is about coming home to yourself and about what actually feels good.
Thank you for hanging out with me on Transforming 45. If you laughed, nodded, or had an oh wow moment, hit follow and share it with your favorite midlife human. Find me on Instagram at @lboat and keep those transformations coming.
Electric acid.